Hello, everybody. Welcome along to the Monkey Barrel Comedy Chat Show. Each week, we have comedians performing a Monkey Barrel comedy, and we get them to sit down and we ask them questions, get to know them a little bit better. And this week, we have a wonderful guest. It's Jay Lafferty. Yay! Thank you so much, Jay, for being here.
Hello, everyone.
So, question number one is, how has your day been?
My day?
Yeah, how's your day been?
My day's been quite hectic.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know when this is going out.
So this will go out in the new year.
In the new year, right? So this is the week, like, this is Christmas week.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm trying to, like, just get everything sorted, get the house tidied, get, like, the pre-cooking done, get presents wrapped, move fucking elves, like...
Are you doing the Elf on the Shelf?
Yeah, I'm doing Elf on the Shelf.
So I was so confused about it. I remember Elf on the Shelf came around. It was just like, oh, you just put an elf on the shelf. And then it started to become, you get the elf to do pranks.
Yeah, the
during
elf
the
is
night.
naughty. So the elf does naughty things.
So you like do a series of different things?
Series of different naughty things.
I did see a picture online where somebody put the elf into the oven and they thought, oh, the kids will see it in the morning, like, oh, the elf was in the oven, and they didn't realize and turned it on and it baked inside under their dinner. And it was just...
That's grim.
It's a horrendous... all that was left was the head. The body was melted.
That's murder on the shelf. That's like...
Yeah.
Which is the name of my new crime podcast.
Maybe they just went very dark and they were like, oh no, the elf committed suicide.
Oh,
Why would they
dark.
do that?
That's
Very dark for Christmas, I think.
Can't do that to the Waynes.
No. Have you done any good pranks this year with the elf?
My favourite one so far was I had the elf drinking Coke and then pooping out Coke bottles, like jelly Coke bottles.
Little jelly ones?
Little jelly Coke bottles.
That's good. I like that because it's a mind worker. You have to think about it. I'm like,
then I went on that theme, so then I had them eating corn and pooping out popcorn. There's a lot of pooping. There's a lot of pooping with the elf.
Yeah,
like,
I appreciate...
Children love jobbies.
I appreciate the logical consistency there between
what
bits.
else can the elf eat and poop out?
Now I'm just going to be thinking of things that elf could eat and poo out. Lego bricks. But then it poops out like a full model that's been constructed.
Model? Oh, that's a good idea.
Little pirate ship. There you go.
You just sorted tonight's.
Yeah.
That's a great idea.
And then you can be like, you can keep that. That poo ship is for you.
Gonna do that.
So how did you get involved in comedy? Like when did you start?
Misspent youth. Qualified for nothing else. I've told this story so many times, and like comedians have this thing because obviously there is the true story, and then there is the story that you've told on the first podcast you were ever asked, and then you're like, that's a bit dull, I'll add something to that.
A little spice.
So I'm like not entirely sure what the true story is anymore. It's all a lie. The short version is that I studied drama at university, and I went off to try and become an actress. And I spent some time in London, I spent some time in LA. And it turns out that only being able to play a Scottish person of whatever age you are is a hindrance. Because I can't do accents. Every accent that I do comes out racist. So. And maybe back in the day when I started, that was okay, right? The people would turn a blind eye, right? But in this current climate, I don't want to be cancelled.
Not okay. Can I hear
I obviously knew that.
Can I hear a little Irish?
No,
I'm here to give you...
The Irish, okay, hold on.
I'm giving you permission.
So the way that I used to get into Irish back in the drama days was 1, 2, 3.
That's pretty good.
Is that all right?
1, 2, 3.
Yeah, but
that's
3.
Right.
But then I can't get anything beyond that. And I mean, I'm from Irish heritage. My granny was Irish. My granddad's Irish. Like, I should be able to do it. Everybody else I know who's like relatives and parents have an accent, they can all do it. I just don't have an ear for it.
Yeah.
Everything ends up Welsh via Bombay. So I think
we mentioned before that like Liam with Nails' dad is Irish, and I remember when I first met Liam, like he was like, oh, I was talking to my dad on the phone, and then he did an impression of his dad, and I was like, that is the most racist thing I've ever heard. And then I met Liam's dad, and he was like, hello George, nice to meet you. And I was like, oh, you're real.
Morning to you.
Yeah, he's the
Liam's
most
dad,
Irish.
who's come to nearly all my friends' shows, is actually a leprechaun.
Yeah, he really is. He's lovely and he's delightful. He's always so excited about it. It's lovely to meet you. But
it's very nice. And he carries a picture of Liam in his top pocket.
No, he doesn't.
He does. Of Liam in school, because the first time I met him, he was in my show, and at the end of the show he went, do you know who I am? Who's that?
No.
And like brings out a picture of Liam as a small child. And I was like, I think it's Liam. He's like, it is Liam. So yes, he's, I can do Liam Withnail.
Yeah, that's your Liam.
Merry Christmas. It's me, Liam Withnail.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, all right, yeah.
So I studied drama, and I just like, it was very difficult to get parts. I got a few parts. I was in a few like quite cool movies. I was in a movie with Kevin McKidd of Grey's Anatomy fame. Producer Claire knows how I feel about Grey's Anatomy because I've been on another pod where all I did was talk about it. But this is before his Grey's Anatomy. So I was in a film with Kevin McKidd where I played his mum as a young person.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was wondering there. I was like, that makes what?
So I was like his mum in flashbacks. And I was in quite a lot of taggarts.
Really?
Played dead prostitutes on a number of occasions. I played a dead prostitute 8 times in Taggart. Then I said to my agent, I feel like I've been typecast. And she phoned me a few weeks later. She's like, you're in Taggart again. It is a prostitute, but you're alive.
Oh, that's a big step up.
And so it was a step in the right direction.
I like the way sometimes with TV shows people make their fan theories. I like the idea there's one person out there going, this is the same person who's been murdered multiple. How has Taggart not figured this out? This is a crime spree, or this is a person faking their own death.
I was murdered I was in the Clyde once. That was very cold. I got dragged out the Clyde, so you couldn't really see me. I was very bloated. What else?
They just kind of blew you up for makeup, like to say.
They just kind of made me blue, to be fair. But then they actually showed my body. It wasn't my body. It was obviously like some sort of prosthetic body, and it was like. But when I first got taken out, it was just very blue. And yeah, I various found behind a bin.
Oh, wow! What's the most interesting death?
I think probably the one in the Clyde was the most like that was pretty.
And you had to get into the water to film that, to be dragged out?
I was in the water. I wasn't in the Clyde, it was in a swimming pool, but then it made it look like it didn't actually look like I was in the Clyde.
There should be a rule where if you to get in water, they show your face completely. They show your full face, so you're like, at least I got a close up.
At least I got a close up of blue dead meat.
Exactly.
But yeah, so I'd done all these like I done all these bit parts, and then I went out and I was doing theatre. I did a little bit of theatre, and then I had no money. And I decided that I would... I actually went to work for a Scottish Society for Autism, which is now Scottish Autism. I worked there as a drama and communications and language kind of support therapy type thing, way back in the very start of kind of drama therapy. Because I had a degree in community arts.
Okay, so that was useful for that.
So that was useful. And then, so while I was doing that, it was quite a stressful job, and I'd done a little bit of improv in the States, and then when I came back, all the improv, you had to be a student to do improv. Like all the improv groups were either that or you were Stu or Gary, and I was neither Stu or Gary or had or was in uni.
They really wrapped it up.
They wrapped it up, yeah. So
what's the name of the show? It's us, and no one else can be in it. That's the way it works.
And so then I did a stand-up comedy course run by the legendary Viv G.
Oh.
And on my course was Mark Nelson and Billy Kirkwood.
That's ridiculous.
And the rest is history. Basically, Mark, Billy and I started comedy nights together, and we called them the Don Quixote Appreciation Society. I did not come up with a name.
That's insane. What I would suggest, the 3 pillars of Scottish comedy right there.
Wow.
What?
Pillar.
What? I'll put that down there.
That's how it all started.
That's wild.
I was 21 when I started.
So we ask people sometimes, do they remember what their first joke was? Do you remember that? Or something within your first set? We've had some terrible ones. And some people have even said they can't remember their first joke, so they'll just say the first time they remember getting a laugh as a child or a joke like that. We'll accept that. We're very laid back on the rules.
I can't remember. I remember the themes of what I talked about, because I talked about being in LA. I talked about everybody being really small in LA and me feeling like a giant, even though I'm only 5'7". And I can't... There was some sort of rude joke about dating somebody who was only 5'2", but I knew where the extra inches went. And I'm sure I said something like, he was like, you know, when you have a bike and a kickstand. That was like, it was really demure. And I did a lot of filthy jokes.
Yeah, I think that's very normal when you first start out. I think when you first start out, you kind of go a little bit further in different directions to see what is my vibe? Where do I want to be? Where do I want to kind of pin myself down?
Yeah, so I think it was something to do with that. It was something to do with small people and
small people and big
willies.
So when you wrote jokes then, has it changed to how you write jokes now? Your like kind of creative process?
Yeah.
Probably more refined.
Well, yeah. It's kind of weird because obviously when you first start doing stand-up, I used to sit and I used to like meticulously write jokes.
Yeah.
And Billy, Mark and I, along with a couple of other guys who were around at the time, we used to meet up in this guy David's flat regularly for like a writing group thing. And I would... you would come with something and then you would share it and people would add, and like it was a proper little nice back when the comedy community was much smaller. It was a proper little writing group that we had, and the feedback I always used to get, and I always remember Mark Nelson saying to me, so I used to write everything down, like every breath, every word, everything. And he said to me once, do you know the only problem is that you sound like the star of Sex and the City? Like
I get that.
It sounds like you're reading it. It sounds like a monologue. And Sex and the City was like the big show at that time, so it probably quite influenced the style that I wrote as well, because she was like a female and she was funny. And so I had this whole thing about, they used to call me Carrie. They would just shout it out if they thought I was sounding too much.
Really?
Like I was monologuing rather than actually interacting. And I was saying now that most of my material develops on stage, so it's much
kind of
looser.
Have like a rough idea.
I have
of
rough
what you
ideas,
want to do.
and I don't write anything down now, really.
I feel like that's where most people eventually end up, is they get more and more comfortable with, I'll figure this out. And also, when you first start, you need to figure everything out because you don't know where you're going to go on stage. Whereas I think later on, your brain has like an idea of like, okay, this is dropping the energy here. Maybe I need to jump into the crowd a little bit. Maybe I need to make this more interactive at this part. So you're figuring it out. It's actually more like, you know, you're like a woodworker working on a piece of wood. You're shearing it away.
And you'll know this as well. As like, I think when you compare a lot, sometimes things will just come up.
Oh yeah.
From audience members, and you'll be like, you'll do a riff or whatever, and a little bit of your brain goes, oh. This could be material.
Yes.
This could be in a set. And so, but the only problem with that is not writing anything down is when it gets around to this time of year, and I always go, oh yeah, I had some Christmas stuff last year. But obviously because you're not doing it, or if I stop doing something, like I was doing a bit about, I did IVF, for those of you who don't know, I did IVF, and I had this whole bit about, the IVF, the sperm donation.
Yeah.
And I was doing it loads for like 6 or 7 months. And then I haven't done it probably now for a year. And I was thinking about it the other day and I can't remember where any of the marks are or where any of the bits are. So I am going to have to trawl through the Monkey Barrow studio recordings and find one from like 2 years ago when I'm doing that bit of material so that I remember what was funny about that.
But I bet when you're going through it, you'll also go, oh, I could do it this way and this way. Sometimes I think it's nice to put something away in a drawer and you come back and it's just having that fresh look at it. You suddenly go, oh, I could approach it this way or that way or something a little bit different.
It's nice.
That is nice. Okay, well, we've had a nice moment. Now we're going to do the Instagram deep dive, the social media time machine. Claire has pulled something from your Instagram. I don't know what it is. We're going to see it. It's going to come up on screen now. For those listening at home, we'll explain. Oh, there we go. So for people listening at home in the audio, can you explain what this is that we're seeing?
It's my butt. For the audience at home, that's my ass. This is a picture of me taken by Rod Penn, a very talented photographer who made me look much leaner and muscular than I actually am. Thank you, Rod. This is a picture of me. I don't know, when was this posted? This is quite a couple of a while ago anyway, because it says at the start of the journey I had no idea of the core strength coordination I was required to pull this off, and I still don't have the core support or the coordination. I think that was probably posted around about March, April of 2023. Just before I did my Glasgow Comedy Festival, the first kind of run out of Pahookie. So these are shots that I had taken to promote my show Pahookie, which was all about me learning how to pole dance at the age of 40.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that is a very well lit picture of me.
It's a promotional photo for...
It's a very promotional photo.
It doesn't need to look like real life.
Yeah, and my brother, who is appalled by these photos whenever they come up on his Instagram, it's like, fucking hell. He always slagged me off for having that haircut because he said that I looked like, what's her name from The Fifth Element?
Oh my God, Lilu.
Yeah.
What's her name again? Mila Jovovich.
Yeah.
And she plays Lilu.
And she has like a catchphrase that when I had ever had this haircut, when I walked into his house, he would do it. I can't remember what the catchphrase is.
Lilu Dallas Multipass?
Something like that.
Along those lines.
And I was like, haha. Yeah, so that was me. I learned how to pole dance.
It was only because of your show that I found out that those poles are like, they spin. I never knew that. And of course, when you look at like strippers in movies, I had no concept. And I was like, oh, of course. Because how would somebody swing around it? Like the friction in their hands.
You can do it. So there's quite a few different versions of pole dancing.
Oh, really?
And so you get what is called a spin pole, which is what I use, which is kind of cheating. But my spin pole actually, it changes to static as well. So I can make my pole static. I just tighten it. And that means that it doesn't move and I can move myself around it.
Yeah.
And then you get one called a Chinese pole or a rubber pole.
Okay.
Which is like what the Shaolin monks and people like that use.
Really?
Yeah, because pole dancing originated, it was Shaolin monks that originated pole dancing.
Yeah.
But that's where it came from. It only became kind of sexualized in the kind of 60s, 70s.
Really?
Yeah, so pole dancing was like a feat of endurance.
Yeah.
That,
do you know, now you're saying it, I'm starting to remember Shaolin monks seeing things online of them holding off of the poles.
Yeah, and what their poles are like, they're not screwed into anything. So they'll put the pole in and then they'll do the tricks while the pole is basically balancing on the pole. Or there's other monks. I'm getting attacked by a thigh kick. Holding it, and so the rubber pole is totally different. It's like really, really sticky, and so if you move around that, you actually have to properly like manipulate yourself around it. I suppose it's
different moves for each one.
Different moves, yeah. So the ones that you would do in the rubber pole, if you've ever seen anybody doing like, there's a move called the Diet Coke break.
Oh, really?
Which is like where you do a shoulder mount. And it's mainly only, there are some women that do it, but it's mainly only male pole dancers that do it because they use the pole and they hold by their shoulder here, and then it's as if they're walking up nothing.
Oh, I think I might have seen that. Yeah,
and that's very... you could only really do that in a rubber pole.
So I guess the pole that spins and then the rubber pole are kind of like, they're like stand-up comedy and improv, and by that I mean... By that I mean the rubber pole is just owned by Stu and Gary. They the only ones that are allowed to use it. Anyone else is not on board.
So that's me and my pole dancing and my butt cheeks.
Well, it's a good photo. It's got a good story and a show that people can check out as well.
Yes, it's going to be on YouTube some point whenever it finishes being edited.
Well, good. Look out for that, people. We'll do plugs at the end, and then a lot of the plugs with comedians are like, "I'll be doing a thing in the future,
yes,
and it'll come out at some point. Follow me on social media." Okay, so we have questions from our last comedian guest, who was Josie Long.
Oh, yay!
So Josie sent in 3 questions for today. So we're going to take a look at the video now of Josie.
I love Josie.
Hello, Jay Lafferty. It's Josie Long here. Hi. It is very harsh of Clem McCluskey, the producer of this podcast, to make me record a video when I'm hungover after my Christmas party and trying to deal with my house. Hello. I'm going to ask you 3 questions for you to answer on the podcast. Number 1, how do you cope when you are totally overwhelmed as a parent? What do you do? Number 2, how are you most different now to when you were 25 years old? And number 3, what kind of a 65-year-old do you envisage yourself being? Okay, thank you. Goodbye.
Oh, amazing.
Wow.
Thank you, Josie.
That's a lot of questions,
Three
and I'm very
intense
jealous
questions.
because she has a drying rack.
Yeah, it's on the roof. Or it's on
Yeah,
the
she's
ceiling.
got a roof rack, a
That's
proper
pretty
drying
cool.
rack, proper.
So a question we like to ask is, because comedians will sometimes take a bit of time to do things. They'll be sometimes lazy.
Yeah.
Every time we have a new guest in, we ask, how long do you think it took from Claire sending them the email asking for that footage to then send the footage in? Now, we have had literally 5 minutes before the podcast started. We've had, literally 25 minutes later, there was Gareth Waugh, who wasn't fucking around. He was like, I'm getting that in immediately. So how long do you think it took Josie? So it's between maybe 1 and 3 days. You can go down to the hours.
I think that being a mum with 2 kids and having a busy Christmas schedule,
Yeah.
I think it was probably quite last minute, like 3 days.
Full 3 days. Let's see. How long was it?
Okay, so I completely forgot to ask Josie.
It wasn't Josie's fault. Claire
Not
forgot
Josie's
to ask.
fault. Sorry, Josie.
Sorry, Josie. I shouldn't doubt
20
you.
minutes before the podcast.
So it's 20 minutes ago.
She sent them in probably within about 2 minutes.
Oh, 2 minutes of you
She's
asking.
a
But
legend.
that's because I was like, we're recording in 45 minutes. Can you please send them in?
So within the hour of this podcast, but also within 2 minutes. That's incredible. Well done.
Can I just say that if you do that to me, I probably won't see it because I am terrible. As Claire already knows, it takes me weeks to get back to things.
I will say, I didn't think anyone was ever going to beat Gareth Waugh with the 20 minutes, but I think Josie's done it. I think
Josie's
that
done
counts.
it.
Yeah.
You've done it, Josie. Well done. So question number 1 was, how do you cope when you are totally overwhelmed as a parent?
I am really lucky, I guess, because it takes so people say, that it takes a village to raise a child.
Yeah.
And I have a city.
Yeah?
Yeah, so I'm really lucky. I have a very supportive partner. I have very supportive in-laws and parents and friends and other mamas, other
People kind of take the...
yeah. So I'm just very
the heat
much
off.
like if I'm feeling at all overwhelmed, or if I do you know what it is? I think I'm quite good at asking for help.
Yeah, I was going to say, that is one of the hardest things, I think. A lot of
Yeah.
people just don't ask for help when they
No,
need it. But
I'm quite maybe I don't know if other people who know me might disagree with that, but I am quite I'm not proud of being I've fucked up here and I've got X, Y, or Z to do. I take on too much a lot of the time. I work. I'm a bit of a workaholic, and so I don't think I could be like that, who I am, without having support
that
around
extra kind
me.
of support, yeah.
Yeah.
And those moments where you kind of realize, this is a bit too much. I
Yeah.
need a little bit just
I need a
to
little help.
reset.
Yeah, so I'm quite good at asking for help. When I'm totally overwhelmed, though, I suppose more emotionally overwhelmed than busily overwhelmed, what I do is I try and reconnect with my senses. So I have a bath.
Yeah.
I'll stick a candle on, I'll put some music on,
That's
I'll
good.
put smellies in the bath. I'll do things that so that I connect with sight and touch and smell, and
So that puts you back in the room.
yeah, just put me
and in that
back in the
space.
room.
It takes you out of your head as well, a little bit.
Yeah,
It is
but
amazing how quickly people will have a shower and be like, I feel a million times better.
Yeah.
But then people find it so hard to do that without thinking of everything and overthinking things.
Yeah. And I think another thing that I do is, if the problem is me, my brain won't shut up,
Yeah.
then I lose myself in amazing, amazing quality medical dramas. Yeah. Grey's Anatomy, 911, 911 Lone Star. Ewan is sick of hearing me talk about these things because he also produces my
You
podcast
love
where
it, Ewan.
I don't shut the fuck up about those 3 shows, and I find a way to get them
genuinely
in.
thought that Grey's Anatomy had finished 10 years ago or 15 years ago. And then I saw, because it's been added to Disney Plus,
Yeah.
and I saw an advert.
22.
And I was just like, what? It's
22
still going?
years.
And she's the head of the hospital now?
No, she's not in it anymore.
She's not? Oh, she gone?
She's
Oh,
gone.
God.
She just does the voiceovers now. Imagine the amount of money you get paid just to be the voice of.
Well, I got bored, so I just went on YouTube and I just typed in all the characters' names I remembered, and then the word death just to see, or leaves the show. And
I mean, you could ask. I could tell you.
Killed everyone off.
Yeah.
Horrendously.
Yeah.
Because I remember the first series, a couple of series where was it George?
George, yeah.
Oh my God. And he was in a car crash.
You're going to make Claire cry. I've made Claire cry in this room before.
George was in the car crash and they didn't know that he'd been so badly damaged. And
007.
He wrote it out in her hand.
007.
Like, oh my God, it's George.
And then she went,
yeah. But it was also weird.
Claire's going to cry again every time.
Sad.
Every time I'm on a podcast that Claire is producing, I make her cry. And to be fair, that was George that brought up 007.
But it was also the fact they went, oh, this is our friend. We should really try and help him.
Yeah. Oh, no, they will try much harder. So will the firefighters 911. Like, sometimes somebody they'll get someone, they're like, oh, we're too late. And then they'll be like, it's James. They're like, oh, no. They'll like run in. And I'm like, oh, you just need to make friends with firefighters.
I remember watching Grey's Anatomy, and I was like, I'm not really into this. My partner at the time really liked it. And then they added Jeffrey Dean Morgan in, and I was like, this guy's so cool. And that got me on board. I was like, this guy's awesome.
He's never not been cool.
Yeah,
anything.
Everything.
And he was so lame in that show.
He was.
Like his character was just like, and he was still, every time he came on, he just smolders.
Yeah, anyone else that did that character, they would have just been a creep. It's like, stop talking to the nurses like that.
Yeah.
But then on the show, you're like, I bet
baby.
you need 50 cc's.
I'd cut your LVAT wire. That's a little in joke for any Grey's fans.
So question number 2 was, how are you most different now to when you were 25?
Facially, everything's gone to shit.
Just our bodies go wrong,
The
right?
body's gone to shit. I was pretty hot at 25. But don't say so myself.
Excuse me, we just showed a picture there of you a minute ago that I think everyone would disagree with.
Yeah, that was a very well lit, very far away photo. I look quite different. I also often think, like, when I meet people who haven't maybe seen me since like my 30s. So when I did my IVF, I had a really bad reaction, which caused cystic acne, which was like really, really painful and sore, and left like me with scarring, which everybody else is like, I don't fucking know what you're talking about, but I'm like, shut up.
Yeah,
I can see
you see it yourself.
The difference. So I feel like I look really different.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that.
But I'm sure you also carry yourself completely different. Like when you're 25, you're still like, what's going on? You're full of hope, but you're also like, is everything okay? Am I allowed to be here? You're kind of trying to find your space in the world.
I was probably just quite obnoxious, George, to be honest with you.
I feel like everyone is.
Yeah, I was quite.
At 25, you don't know, where you're going or where you're meant to be. So you just act like overconfident.
You don't know what you don't know. And I was gigging with Liam Farrelly last weekend, and I was looking at him. I don't even think he is 25 yet, and he's like married with a kid. And I was teasing him and his wife Tyler, they're both absolutely lovely people. And I'm like,
they're great.
Fuck you guys! Like when I was your age, this was not what I was doing.
Yeah.
I was not married. I did not have a kid. I didn't have a job that I could earn proper money from. I was just running about like a loony.
Yeah. I have a friend who was he, like much younger, and we were talking, and he was like, he's in his 20s, and he was just like, oh, life's a mess, and I just don't know what's going on. I just broke up with my girlfriend, and that was in October. And then the next time I spoke to him was in March, at which point between then and October, March, he had met this American girl, fallen in love, moved to America, they'd gotten married, and she was pregnant. And that was so fast.
That's too much.
It was too much. I absolutely said it.
Too much.
Nate, you're deliriously happy, but it's a bit much.
Yeah.
Space it out.
Space that shit out.
You can't just be like, I nailed 27 and then the rest was a mess.
Yeah. So, yeah, probably I'm much more humble. That's the word. Things haven't worked out the way I thought they would. But they've worked out pretty nice. So I'm all right.
And then question number 3 was, what kind of a 65-year-old do you envisage yourself being?
Dead? No. Well, do you know what? My mum and dad are in their 70s, and they like my mum, my dad too, but my mum looks like 50s. And they're still gadding about, having a laugh, doing their thing, looking after grandchildren. Thanks very much.
65 when you're 25, 65 seems insane. It seems like, oh my God, I can't imagine that. And then you get older and you're like, 65. You meet so many people who are 65 or 70.
Well, the thing is that what I feel is between 25 to, I'll be 43 next week. So between 25 to 43, went like that.
Yeah.
Like literally, particularly 30 to 40.
Yeah.
30 to 40 is like a blur.
Yeah.
And so if 40 to 65 goes as fast as like the last 15 years have
or
gone,
faster.
like, or fast. Yeah, it feels like, and it's also sometimes you see, so like quite a lot of my friends had kids young, and now their kids are like coming to my shows with their fiancés and shit like that, and I'm going, no, you're a baby, and they're like, I'm 31. I'm like, shut up.
You're a child. You can't be at this. I can't say these horrible words in front of you. And they're like,
yeah, it's odd. It's really weird. So
I heard though a theory, right, that the reason time feels like it gets faster as you go along is because when you're a baby, when you're a child, your brain is set up to like be constantly taking in information all the time, and it does it maybe 10,000 times in a minute. It's reacting and it's looking around, it's taking in information. And the older you get, the less it does that. So the reason it feels like time moves quicker is because it kind of does, because your brain is checking things 1,000 times a minute rather than 10,000 times. So that's why time suddenly feels a lot kind of shorter, which is terrifying. I don't like that. I
mean, you just said a lot of numbers there, and I'm not going to lie, my brain went, I don't. What?
I'll do that as well. When someone says numbers, I'm like, I'm out.
My brain was like, I'm only taking in 1,000 of that. Like,
whereas if you were 25, you'd be like,
I'd be on it. I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, so I think at 65, I don't know. I hope that I'm happy.
Yeah.
I hope that I have like still the close relationships that I have with the people that I care about, and I hope that I've found a few more people along the way.
And I hope by then Stu and Gary will let more people do improv.
Stu and Gary might let people do improv.
But if you're where you're at now and it's not what you expected, but it's right for you now and you're happy with it, then hopefully with 65 you can't imagine what it'll be, but you hope you'll be happy and it will be naturally what you want.
And you know what? I think it probably will be, because I think that as long as, you know, I keep being true to who I am, like,
and what you want,
and also being kind, right? Like I feel at the moment like life is such a fucking bin fire of existence that
it really is. Yeah,
the only thing you can do is look after your little corner and be kind and pay kindness forward. And so I'm very trying to do that. And I'm not saying I'm always successful,
but trying.
But I'm trying to be kind and mindful of the challenges other people have.
Well, now that we've spoken about being kind, it's time to move on to the game that we play at the end of the stream, or at the end of the show, where we're maybe less kind. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun. We're gonna challenge that right now. But thank you, Josie Long, for the wonderful questions.
Josie.
And if you're not following Josie, go follow Josie, a fantastic comedian. But we're gonna play a new game now, where this new game we're gonna be discussing icks, and we've named this part of the show Big Ick Energy.
Big Ick Energy.
Big Ick Energy. And we've got these cards here that have different icks on each side. So we're going to mix them up and you're going to pick one.
Okay.
And what we're going to do is we're going to see which
also, thank you to Kathleen Hughes for explaining what the ick is a few years ago, because I'm old. So now I know what the ick is.
I had to read the instructions for this, but I was like, oh, is it cringe? And people are like, people don't say cringe anymore. That's
cringe.
Yeah. So we've got all these. You can pick any one you want. Pick a card. And there's going to be two. There's going to be one in the front, one in the back.
Okay.
And then I'm going to pick one as well. We'll see what that is. And what we're going to do is we're going to try and decide between the two of us. You're going to pick which one you think would give Claire the ick more, producer Claire.
Okay.
So you can have a look and think between the two, and then we'll find out which.
Does Claire know, or do we have to read them out to Claire?
We're going to read them out to Claire, and we're going to see. So you can tell me if there's one that you definitely want to pick, and there's one you're not going to pick. You can tell me the one you're not going to pick first.
I think the one that I'm not going to pick is this one.
Okay, let's hear that one.
Okay, so that is they don't have an inside voice. No comics have inside voices. Claire would be constantly boking.
Yeah.
I don't think I've met a comic with an inside voice.
The one I'm not going to choose is they buy stuff from the in-flight catalogue on a plane.
That's all right.
You all right? Okay.
Sometimes you get a good bargain. Sometimes in makeup.
There's someone out there that's going to leave a comment.
Yeah.
Someone in the comments is going to be like, that is disgusting to me. I'd be divorced before I get off the plane.
I don't mind that.
So, okay. So you've got one that you're going to pick. Go with yours.
Okay. So this one is also because Claire, who's seen my show, knows how it finished. So, I think what would give you the ick is seeing them start a conga line, but not enough people join in.
Oh my God.
I finished my show with a conga line every night, and that was my fear.
Yeah, of course. Because you still have to keep going.
I would still have to do it, even if everybody else is like, what is she doing?
Yeah, it's not like applause where you can kind of go, oh, okay, no, we're not doing that. Like you have to fully commit. Oh my God.
And my catchphrase was, only pricks don't join conga lines. So I just yelled that until people did. But that's pretty ick.
That's a good way to do it. You were cringing them out, so they had to join. Okay, mine is, I mean, I had to pick this one, and it's perfect. They've heckled a comedian at a show. Yeah. I mean, that's the ick of all time. Ick. I mean, I was doing a show the other night, and there was a lady in the second row, and Josie Long was on, and she was laughing, and her boyfriend...
I was there!
Oh, yes, of course! What the fuck was wrong with me?
I was there! Yes. And the boyfriend said...
Yes, the boyfriend said, stop laughing. You're embarrassing me. Embarrassing me? Him? I couldn't believe it. I'm still shook by that.
Do you know what? He's the sort of prick that wouldn't join a conga line.
Absolutely. I still cannot believe that. And then when I talked to her, she was like, oh, he's going to be livid that you're talking to me. And I was like, leave this prick.
Yeah, that's
leave
red
him right
flags
now.
Galore. Total
oh my
red
God.
Flags.
All right. Well, yes. Wonderful. Claire, which of those would you pick? What is your biggest ick? Heckling a comedian.
Yay.
Thank you. What a wonderful end of year treat.
Just say no.
Don't do it. For the love of God, it's never been great. So fantastic. We're going to get you to do some plugs in a minute. So start thinking of things you want to plug, and I'll plug the podcast at the end. If you enjoy the show, please leave a review or comment underneath or share it. We appreciate that. If you want to see live comedy, there's comedy on every night at Monkey Barrel Comedy. There's also lots of other podcasts recorded here at the Monkey Barrel Comedy Studio. Please check them out. And if you'd like to see me, I'm on twitch.tv/Fox Comedy most nights streaming. Come check me out there from 10:30 p.m. Is that the time? I'm the one that does it. You think I'd remember. So, Jay, what do you have as your plugs?
Well, you can check out my podcast with Hannah Campbell called Joy Agenda, which is recorded here at Monkey Barrel Studios, where there may or may not be too much chat about 911 and Grey's Anatomy. You can come and see me live at the Glasgow Comedy Festival with a brand new show, which is called Ooft. And that's on the 22nd at the Glasgow Comedy Festival. 22nd of March at Glasgow Comedy Festival. Ooft. Jay Lafferty. And you can
always great names for the shows.
Thank you.
It always sounds. I like it.
Thank you.
Also onomatopoeic. Is that it? What
yeah, I love a little onomatopoeia.
Onomatopoeia. I went onomatopoeic and I was like,
that's my pole dancing name. Because I've had a child vaginally. You can come and see me there or follow me on Instagram. I mean, I'm on, I got rid of X because of Elon Musk, so I'm not on that. I am on TikTok, but I keep forgetting about it, and I'm on Threads and I keep forgetting about that, and Blue Sky it's just too far. I can't be arsed. So Instagram is the best place, and it's at JJLaffs, JAYJAYLAFFS.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for being in today. Thank you for answering all the questions, and of course, thanks to our wonderful tech, Ewan. And
this ficus is
We're gonna go fight that ficus, folks. We're gonna fight that ficus, folks. Enjoy the rest of your week. This has been the Monkey Barrel Comedy Chat Show. Bye bye.
There's something hiding under the ice, imitation of a sound. There's something standing behind the door. Would you like